Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday here at 9:30. Same as always. 9:30.
Nope.
What'd you say? Oh, I see me. You see me? No? No. Okay.
It's on me. Hang on. It's my headphones here.
Awesome.
We're good. You're good.
I'm talking to nobody. Anyway, I'm going to pretend like you guys can hear me. So today, good morning, happy morning, whatever it is. We have Stacy having her on. Super excited. Was just looking into her backstory a little bit more on her profile, but I want to let her obviously tell it to you guys. But expert at raising capital. One of the things too I want to talk about, especially within a male-dominated industry, how she felt entering, and especially not even now. This was a decade ago, which it was a big deal back then, even a bigger deal, I should say. So that's something I'm interested in talking to her about, as well as the marketing and everything it takes to raise that much capital, the relationships it takes, and all that stuff. We have a real treat, I feel like, for everybody today. So we'll go ahead and get started.
I think we totally faked her out there, Stacy. Sorry about that.
Good morning. How are you guys? Keith first. Good job, Keith. Nick, good morning. Jeff, good morning. Alston, if you're here, good morning. And
Happy Friday.
We go live at 9:30, not 9 a.m. Zach, good morning if you're here. He said he was going to be. Happy birthday, Zach. It's Zach's birthday today.
Guys, bear with Ryan. He has what we call Bobo internet. So when you see him pausing and continuing to talk, that is what that is what it is. So
Ryan is what we call poor or lazy. So that's what we're dealing with. I'm going to let's bring on. Can you hear me, Corey? Is this actually is it sort of normal? Is it really choppy?
Yeah, you're just like a robot. I see you move, but I hear you.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Okay. So as long as I'm here audio wise, then everybody knows. I'm just going to start faking people out and just stop it and moves. Let's get Stacy on so we don't waste too much of her time today. As I want to be able to have her get a chance to tell her story and introduce herself. So with no further ado.
Yep.
Hello, Stacy. How are you?
Hey guys. Good morning. Cheers.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
Water. Absolutely.
Stacy, I did a little phonetic background check this morning, and I apologize. Havener sounds like the lazy way of doing it. It's Havener.
It is. Thank you for being so detail oriented. It's long Havener. Yes.
Awesome.
Havener. Cool. So I want to take the time. We always look into our guests a little bit more. But I always want to give the guests, and especially you, the floor to kind of tell your story a little bit, and we'll dig in and start asking questions. But just kind of introduce, who you are and what you do.
Oh, I'd be happy to. So my name is Stacy Havener. I'm the founder of Havener Capital Partners, which is a sales and marketing agency that helps boutique asset managers build, launch, and grow funds. And I think the operative word there is boutique. And I was like kind of fangirling here in the beginning when you guys were doing your intro, and then some like really jazzy video played. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like way out of my league here. So I
don't think so.
You alluded to my backstory, and I'd be happy to sort of explain why that boutique word is so important if you'd like me to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. Please. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, on paper, I have no business being in this business. I'm a blue collar kid from a working class town who got the wrong degree from the wrong school. And I'm a
English literature, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. English literature. I did not set out dreaming of being, a capital raiser in the fund business. I set out dreaming of being a literature professor. And I paid my way through college. I was going to have to pay my way through grad school. And I also was a soccer player. So my high school soccer coach, which at the time, I don't think I realized that coaches had day jobs. I just thought they were coaches. So I was like, I don't know what he does. He's a
Depends which level. But yeah, you're right.
But as it turns out, he was the founder of $1 billion small cap equity boutique. That was his day job. We had stayed in touch through college. And so he knew my story. He knew I wanted to go back to grad school. And he offered me a job, which was amazing, but also like scaring me because I knew nothing about stocks. But again, it was my coach. So he's like, I'll teach you. Okay. He's like, you save money, you go back to grad school, and you're on your way to being a professor. And I never left. As it turns out, there is a place for a girl who loves words in an industry filled with white men who love numbers. And here I am. So,
that's a great sentence, by the way. So true.
So Ryan sent me a message last night, and I wonder if there's confusion around this, because from where you are, Stacy, you use the phrase the way I use the phrase because I spent 15 years in that business. Ryan seems to wonder if FAs use that phrase similarly, and that's asset management.
Yes.
So when you think of what an asset manager is, what is that?
So to me, an asset manager is someone who invests your money into assets such as stocks. Typically for me, it's institutional. It's a portfolio where their primary job, so the big differentiator for me is their primary job, if you're an asset manager, is institutional management of other people's capital, not financial planning or wealth management or kind of the more, sort of holistic qualitative components that many advisors do. You literally are hired to do a job, which is generate performance by managing assets.
Yeah. I feel like on the wholesale side of the business, asset manager gets thrown around by all the fund companies as their label, right? And
yeah,
Ryan sent me a message last night. He's like, aren't FAs asset managers?
I mean, some of them might be. And then again, then I would go to that differentiator. This is actually a great question because sometimes we have advisors who call us that say, can you help us? And
to us, if you're if you play the AUM game, then you're managing assets. So then you call, I don't know, I just figure it just in your mind, asset manager.
Great question. So for us, what we say is, okay, so because some advisors even have their own funds or want to launch them. But the differentiation for us is what other business are you in? And if the other business you're in is being a financial advisor, right, providing advisory services to people on their sort of financial plan and their, overall net worth and their goals as just a human, that is not the type of asset manager that we represent.
Cool.
So Stacy, just to ground, to set the level here and set the stage, Havener Capital works with boutique asset managers come to you guys because they don't have the scale or the expertise to get their products in front of the right folks at the client level, which would be the financial advisors.
That's right. And I think that ties back to this whole idea of the underdog. So basically, and we all know this because we live in this business, but asset management, like many businesses, is dominated by a very small handful of very big firms. And then there's sort of everybody else who's fighting to just even get seen, never mind, have a sustainable business and grow a business. And so that whole story about the underdog and the boutique, that resonates for me because clearly I am one. And so I say this all the time. If my team's listening, they're like, here she goes. But like, I'm not interested in helping BlackRock raise $1 more. What's great about that is BlackRock doesn't care that I'm not interested in helping them because they don't need my help, right? They're raising trillions of them.
We're naming names now. Let's go.
And so that's what makes the world go round, right? So for me, I am, solidly, and our team is solidly on this mission to help boutique asset managers get discovered, get found, find their tribe of investors. And as part of doing that, that means taking market share from the bigs. And that's really difficult to do because the bigs, they're dominating on many, many levels. They dominate the airwaves. They dominate the conference circuit. They dominate in flows. They dominate the platforms. I mean, they just take up all the air in the room. Yep. And so we're trying to help boutiques connect specifically because we're often brought in for new funds that are being launched, or like a breakaway portfolio manager spins out of a firm and sets up their own boutique. Those are sort of some of our favorite scenarios. so when we work on, it's not just boutique, it's like new fund, no money in it, no track record. So basically we're like, give me like all the hardest things, give me all your challenges, right? Give it to us and we'll figure it out. And so it's a very, very niche within a niche.
This is one thing that I know Ryan's huge on and pushing a lot lately, and what our business MCO Advisors believes in. Delegate the stuff that you either, you don't have the knowledge to execute on, you don't have the desire, or you don't have the time.
I love that. And we do that even for ourselves. I mean, I think the world has sort of embraced this idea. And certainly for a boutique asset manager, and definitely if you're just sort of starting or you just broke out and set up your firm, their expertise is managing money. It's not marketing. And while it may take them a little, in kind of a public forum, they might not want to admit it, but when you talk to them one-on-one, they will absolutely admit, like, I don't know how to do marketing. It's not my thing. It's not why I get up every morning. I want to get up every morning and, do my unique ability, like spend time in that, which is investing. And so it is a great partnership. And I think all of us, regardless of what business we are in, should think about that idea.
Yeah.
Knowledge, desire, and time himself, Jeff Johnson. That changed my life when he said something like that. Because I used to tell myself to delegate and to do I just use these certain words, but I didn't like put an emotion to what I was doing. And I think once I did that, knowledge, desire, and time, once I really thought about whether I wanted to do something, did I have the time and all that stuff, then like delegating almost started taking care of itself. Because it was just a forethought of the fact that I was like, don't want to do that. We'll do this. Keep doing this. Don't do this. And it was just like checking boxes rather than, I don't know, emotionally bouncing around. So
yeah, Stacy, we had a guest on last week or 2 weeks ago, and he shared with us the way he views the world, and it's knowledge, desire, and time. And I outsource everything that doesn't meet those 3 criteria.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Which is for Jeff is his entire company at this point, which is awesome.
It's amazing. Good for him.
Yeah, it's amazing. So one of the things I got to get into as well is that your capability and what you've done already in your track record. I love that you also said you took the love for words into what you're doing now, but you had the ability to raise $8 billion. Mm-hmm. That's no small feat or small task. Right. When you were getting started, how long did it take you to catch momentum? And I guess what are some secrets you can share with people on the relationships you had to create to develop capital?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So when I started in the business in 1998, working with my soccer coach, and that was kind of a crazy time. Not dissimilar from some of the things we might be seeing right now. So a lot of things worked then, but we launched a fund from scratch, and I got to do all the behind the scenes of that. And we very quickly raised $500 million in 2 years. What I would say is like some of the stuff that people really geek out on when I talk about raising money is like the fast raises. Let's just all like be honest. That's atypical. Yeah. Right. Like, and so we'll get to typical, but I know the stories are fun when it's like, wow, like that was amazing. And so because of that sort of started me down this path of like, oh, you can, I didn't know any better. Again, I didn't come from this business. So I didn't know that wasn't supposed to work. It worked. So to me, it was like, well, that works. So here we go. I'll do it again. And then, I started, repeating that success for new funds with no track record. And again, I didn't know I was doing anything particularly special. It wasn't until I sort of got more, kind of ingrained in the business that I realized that it was actually special, that it was actually challenging. So I'll give you sort of the sort of most explosive raise we've ever done, and then we'll talk about more typical. We helped a hedge fund firm. They had about $4 billion. They wanted to launch a mutual fund, and this is obviously when Liquid Alts 1.0 was coming out. So there were some good tailwinds, and that's an important thing to know if you're swimming upstream or if you've got some wind behind your back. We took them from literally $1 million of seed capital to $1 billion in AUM in 3 years. That's the fastest raise we've ever done. But more typically, the sales cycle for any advisor to, an early adopter RIA to kind of do good quality due diligence and make a decision is probably closer to 12 months, 12 to 18 months. If there's an active search, maybe it's shorter than that. So the best advice I got, and I give this to all our managers, is whatever you think your growth rate is going to be and kind of how much it's going to cost and how difficult it's going to be, double that. Double that, because it's probably at least double what you think it's going to take to make it happen. As far as
advisors should also do that for AUM.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, 100%.
You're in.
Pretend like this is your 5-year goal and pretend it happens in 10. That's probably very good advice.
100%. And the other thing that's really helpful to that, Ryan, is as you measure yourself, as you're growing, measure backwards. So what happens when you're an entrepreneur is you say, oh, so I wanted to be at $1 billion in 3 years. And now I'm year one in, and this is how far away I am from $1 billion. Like, I suck. Worse is saying, like, wow, I'm at 50 million or 100 million. And when I started the year, I was at 0. That is how you protect your confidence as an entrepreneur, because it doesn't happen overnight. It does not.
So, like, that advice, like, as Ryan and I are building this company, right, is so true. Like, if you look at it and say, well, we're only at X, we would hope to be at Y, right, versus, well, shoot, we started at 0 and we're at X.
Exactly. So measure backwards and then celebrate that success. And then, same thing, whatever the time frame is, because that sunset is always moving, right? That sunset, you can never grasp it. So you're always going to be feeling like you're not doing enough or you're not successful enough if you measure forwards.
One of the other things I'm interested in getting into is obviously the connection between, asset managers reaching financial advisors. Yeah. I think we're flooded, emails, calls, everything with so much stuff. So I'm super interested on your success and what you found worked just to fight through the noise.
Yes. Well, I know Dan Laughlin's on the line, and we used to we feel so bad for you. Can you please just know that? Yeah, we feel so bad for you. We see what is happening and how many asset managers want a piece of you, and just, gosh.
Let me just pause you real quick, because like coming from that
industry,
industry,
feel loved.
Some of the first things I would say to Ryan and others would be like, it blows me away how much more of your time is spent just playing defense than it is actually doing any work.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, can we all just agree that it's okay to say no?
Yes.
Like, seriously, if you're an advisor and someone hits you up and you don't want any part of it, no one will feel bad. And even if they do, who cares? They'll have to toughen up. Like, just say, this isn't for me. It's not for me. They will go away, hopefully. And and it helps them. It really does, because as a salesperson, if you don't say no, then I'm like, well, just say something. Like, say maybe, or actually maybe not. Don't say maybe. Say yes or no.
You can smell the blood in the water if you say maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So if you say maybe, if you're an advisor and you say maybe, you're definitely getting more calls.
2 calls a week.
Definitely.
Not 1.
Definitely. So definitely don't say maybe if you're a no.
But I agree. And not whether it's busy or just feeling bad or whatever it is, the human side of it, I agree. And really, I think a lot of us are used to it. You see the number and you let it go to voicemail, or you see the email and you can scroll through. So it more so is something that you're mentally thinking about a little bit, but it's like, check the phone, not a local number, not somebody I recognize or something like that. And so it doesn't really, I feel like, bother most financial advisors. You get used to that. A lot of them have assistants, which they would call gatekeepers, to that degree of saying, what's your intention of the call if it sounds salesy, and then right to voicemail. That's what I did. So.
Gosh, there's so many things in there. Like, why do you sound salesy? Like, don't sound salesy. Everyone knows what's happening. Yeah. So, I would say, Dan, I saw your note pop up, be a person. Like, so let's talk about voicemails for a second. I have this post that it was like years ago I wrote it. I'll bring it back. It was when that song came out. Remember that Call Me Maybe song?
Yes,
absolutely. One of my favorites.
post about how bad wholesaler voicemails are. So I'll have to like resurrect that somehow. But your point is so well taken. So you can tell. So this typical salesperson is so concerned with themselves that they literally can't. They're like blinded by their own reflection. So when they call you and they leave you a voicemail, it starts like this. Hi, this is Stacy Havener calling from Havener Cap. And you're like, duh.
Beep.
I already know what this is. Sorry, don't know you. But if you called your friend, do you call your friend and say, hi, Corey, this is Ryan Stark calling from, you don't. You just say, yo, it's
right now.
Me, blah, blah, blah. And then if it's like a friend that you're like, maybe this person doesn't actually know my voice. So then at the end, you're like, oh, by the way, it's Stacy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to be that casual about it, but think about the difference between those two voicemails. Here's the other thing that I don't get about voicemails. If you call someone, what's the goal of a voicemail? Everything you do should have an intention, right? So if I call you to leave you a voicemail, it's because I want you to call me back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the goal of a voicemail. Guess I'm going to call you bait's If I call you and leave a voicemail, typically, right? If I call you and leave a voicemail and I say, hey, Corey, it's Stacy. When we talked, you mentioned this, and here's the answer to that question, and call me back. You gave me the answer on the voicemail. So why am I calling you back?
Let me ask you this, though.
But wait, so then here's this alternate. So that's option A. I tell you what I want to tell you on the voicemail and then ask you to call me back. Or I say, hey, Corey, remember when we chatted and you had that great question? I have an answer. Give me a call back when you have 5 minutes. If you want the answer to the question, you're going to call me back. If I leave the answer to the question on the voicemail, why the heck are you calling the person back?
You don't have to pull punches on curse
Nice
words.
catch.
It's up to you.
Why the shoot?
All right, I've got to ask you this because you're right. You guys are in the business of sales, so it's just a question I have to ask. Option B is a better option to get someone back on the phone. There's no question about it. Option A, if you leave off the end of that, is a better option to get out of someone's way and give them as much value as you
100%.
can and not waste any more time.
Which is why I said typically. So sometimes you really just want to relay the information, then a voicemail is great. And if it's really just you want to communicate information, do that and then send a quick email that just says, hey, per my voicemail, here's the answer. And that's fine. Again, it really depends on what's the goal of the particular activity. So if I want you to call me back, I have to reframe how I leave my voicemail. If the goal is just to communicate something to you, then that's a great, easy way to do it. And you need a mix. Right?
Probably depends on your relationship at the time, I would imagine, too, because maybe if you're very early, it's like, let's get the call back. If you've talked to somebody for a while and you've spoken to them extensively, it's probably a little bit easier just to relay them the information.
Right. Well, think
when you've had that back and forth.
Yes. And just be a person. Think about how you would be with your friend. Even if you're not friends yet, who cares? Right? If you want to be friends with this particular potential client, if you're an advisor or a potential investor, if you're an asset manager, if Ryan calls Corey because they're going to meet somewhere pre-COVID, and all he wants to do is say, hey, this is the spot we're meeting. You don't say, call me back. It's why? I want to,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, call me back. I'll give you the location.
So it's just understanding, what are you trying to do? What is the goal of the thing you're trying to do?
I promise you, this is not how the scripts are at the bigs.
No. And so that's a great point, Corey. Because if you look, even if you looked at emails or it'll be all about them, which honestly is the worst plan for whatever business you're in. Did you guys read the book, Building a Story Brand?
No.
Okay. Everyone, this is your homework. You must read this book.
Hey, this is our show. What the heck?
I know, sorry. And if you don't like to read, I love to read actual books, but I know some people, it's not their vibe. That's fine. Just listen to it on Audible or on the double speed things that you can listen to, whatever. The basic gist is this. You are not the hero of your brand story. Sorry. The customer, the client, the investor, they're the hero. You're the guide. They're Luke Skywalker. You're Yoda. They're Katniss. You're Haymitch. And once you get that, you will change how you market and your business will change. You are, however, the hero of one thing, and that's your backstory. So when I told you my backstory, there's no way I cannot be the hero of that because it's my story as the founder of the firm. That's my life. I have to be the hero of it. And so what I would add, the one thing missing from StoryBrand in my mind is the backstory. If I'm going to pick you, since this is not a movie, I don't just get assigned Yoda as my financial advisor. If I'm going to select you as my financial advisor, I need to know who you are. And again, this industry does a really bad job of teaching all of us that people don't matter, that the only thing that matters is the numbers on the page. And so whether you're an asset manager or a financial advisor, if you don't explain why you get up every morning as it relates to you personally, why you're on this mission to serve, you won't be their Yoda.
You're not, you hit the nail on the head there. They actually do a really good job of training you how to not be that.
Definitely. That's what I mean. Bad. It's bad for you. Bad, good, right? Good for them because they don't want any one person to be too much of the story. That doesn't help you if you're big. Mm-hmm. If you're big and Gunlock walks out the door, now you've got a problem, right? Even if you think you don't. So it's good for them, bad for us.
So this hits, this scratches the surface on one of the questions I wanted to ask, and that we led with this show with in the promotion last night. But I guess it's more than scratching the surface, but it's breaking down that us versus them mentality and who's us and who's them. Is it the wholesalers and the asset managers, or is it the FA? Like there's this constant friction there, and only I feel like so few play the game that you and your team and folks who like you see the world play that game the proper way.
Well, thank you. I agree with you. I mean, if you, again, this doesn't happen anymore, but when we had conferences, if you went to a conference, you could walk into the exhibit hall and instantly know who's a wholesaler with an asset management firm and who is an advisor. It was so obvious, right? And it's, so the us and them thing, it's literally down to how you're dressing. I'm not sure what the memo was about why everybody in the wholesale industry, who's a wholesaler has to wear a suit and do practice golf swings. I don't golf, so it's a whole golf swing. I don't know where that memo went, but chuck it. That is not a good memo. Okay.
We had some guy come in with a driver one time. That was the most baller thing I've ever seen. I didn't know if we should work with him or not talk to him ever. I couldn't imagine somebody.
But I'm afraid I'm gonna get
never a tie, always a sport coat, right? Just showing up, closing deals. I don't know.
Seriously,
it's funny, especially with the emails or the voicemail. I like this with Dan, what he threw out, get creative. And the reason is, and I don't want to keep beating up the script, but our lives are mostly if you're listening to a voicemail, this is this name from this firm, from the internal for this name, and then this. And I've already heard 2 human names, a firm name, and before we even got to information, I can't even calculate what's going on. So that's why I like the creativity. I like what you say about being human and getting in there. Yep. And already doing that from English literature, John throwing that out. But that's why it's a big deal. I think every advisor here can, hears the same voicemail over and over, delete, just move.
That's horrible. It's so bad. How about start the voicemail with what matters to the person you're calling and then end it? Yeah, I'll call you guys. I'll leave everyone.
Incoming, Nick.
Yeah. And it's, so wait, let's go back to us versus them. Here's another, John, I'm going to talk about books again. I'm sorry. I can't it's ingrained in me.
This one can't handle it.
Sorry, Ryan.
No, I'm fine. I'm the Audible book person.
Yeah.
I said I don't read, but Audible books are fine.
Who came up with the idea that selling is a battle? Well, why is that? Why are we fighting to the death the person that we want to actually help. I don't understand it. So I'm in this mastermind, and one of the guys said, you got to read this book. It's really great. It's called Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. And I'm sorry, I'm sure he's a great guy and I'm sure he's very successful. So I start the book and I'm like, I need to go take a shower. This is like, this is horrible. This is like horrible. It's all about like battling at the conference table with who has power and who's going to be able to talk and like, you know, all this. And I'm like, this is not the business I'm in. Should not be the business anyone is in. If you're a financial advisor and you're meeting with a prospect, are you battling them? No, if I'm an asset manager, I might battle with you to like win. I'm trying to help you. So if I tell you how I can help you, again, how I can be the Yoda to your Luke, and you're like, I don't need that kind of help, then I just go, that's fine. That's great. Thank you for telling me, and you're awesome, and I'm awesome, but we're like not a good fit. So
yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you handle the no's?
You just say that thanks for your honesty, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and that's not what we do. Maybe you have some recommendations of someone who might be a better fit. I mean, again, be a person. This is not like, if you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing. You end up being nothing. That just doesn't work. And so this idea, even the gatekeeper idea, it's like, what is this? Like, I think I did a blog about it. Is this like Legend of Zelda? And I'm trying to like get to the next level. I'm just like, hi, do you like here's what we do. Does that help you? No, yes, no. Okay, I'm out. Because it's a waste of time for me too.
This might be one of the realest conversations in asset management
How
history.
far do you go with, and maybe you sort of answered this, but how far do you go with objections? Like, I think that's a little bit of art to it when you can feel whether somebody's telling you no or somebody's saying like, well, what about this? You know, how I guess, and so really objections is almost like figuring out a way to answer their question. How do you feel about objections? How far do you go with that situation?
Ooh, good one. Well, I think you have to try. So putting yourself in their shoes first, right? So if you really put yourself, so if they've said, I do actually need the help, and you're like, okay, tell me your situation so that you really can put yourself in their shoes in an authentic way. Once you're standing kind of where they see things, then when they say an objection, it's not like consult your list of objections and where's the response. It's literally to say, okay, why, if I'm them, why are they saying that? Where's this coming from? And then bringing that up. And the odds are it's not an objection to you, which is how most salespeople take it. Like, what the heck? This is like an objection against me. It's probably some behavioral human thing that's happening with them. And so the sooner you can get to the real heart of the issue in an authentic way and explore it with them, then you together figure out like, where is that coming from? And, so to play it out in real life, if I'm talking with an investor and they are looking for a new value manager, let's say, value's been really beaten up, and they start asking questions or poking at things, and it seems odd to me, like these objections. I need to understand, well, where were you? What happened with the value manager that you are replacing? Because they're carrying some sort of experience with them that they're worried about. And then you might find out, well, yeah, I had that value manager and they just kept getting stuck in these value traps. And when the market would go up, they were always missing it. And so I want downside protection, but I also don't want to miss, growth opportunities that I feel I should be taking advantage of. That's not an objection. That's just like an experience that they need help understanding. How do you the new option, deal with that particular situation? So to me, it's more put yourself in their shoes and understand where they're coming from, and then together figure it out.
I like that.
Would you market any differently or talk any differently? I think most people look at like maybe what you're doing, especially going from boutique to financial advisor, because they own a business, B2B. But I kind of look at it as B2C. It's still usually a single person or like really a human being. Would you market any differently or approach any differently an advisor who's talking to a person that they want to work with versus an asset manager who's talking to a financial advisor that they hope to work with?
That's such a great question. You know what, Ryan? I love that question so much. No, because at the end of the day, we're all human. And if you really want to geek out, like go study behavioral finance. Look at all the biases that people have. And it doesn't matter if you're like a CFA and you know about the biases and you're analyzing managers, or if you're John Smith and you're just worried about your retirement plan, those biases are the same. And so while the level of sophistication might be different, what's actually happening in the process of working with this person to determine if there's a good fit is exactly the same. Loss aversion, endowment bias, all of those things are human phenomenons. And at the end of the day, we're all people. So that's going to happen at any level, any industry. Those biases are very, very real.
I have a question I want to ask you. When you meet with some of the boutiques that you're meeting for the first time, or people that want to hire you guys to help them, give me like some real candorous situations where they don't jive with the personality that you guys have, because you're so authentic that they're like, this doesn't match.
Yeah. Yeah. What a good question. So typically there's so the nice thing about knowing who you are and kind of owning your niche is that the attract repel thing happens before they ever actually talk to you, right? Because they're going to be on your website or read, what you write on LinkedIn, and they're going to know like, this is just not my person. Yeah. So that usually sort of self-selects, and that's what you want. That's what you want your marketing to do for you. But let's say we find ourselves in a situation in which we do, and all of a sudden we're like, oh man, this is not going well. So the big red flag for me, because we're very good at raising money, we'll get calls from people and they're like, I'm launching a fund and I need to raise a lot of money. And you're like, okay, so tell me, like, in 3 years, what does that look like to you? What's this in 3 years from now? We're sitting here, we're having this conversation. What has to have happened for this to be a success? And they're kind of like, well, year 1 is $1 billion. Year 2 is like 5 billion. They start just giving you like astronomical numbers that are just ridiculous. I call it the person who wants $1 billion yesterday is going to be a really bad fit for us. And when we hear that, we realize they're calling us because they really just want us to like go. They still think that we can pick up the phone to advisors and say, yo, Corey, I got a new fund, put money in it. Yo, Ryan, I got a new fund, put money in it. Like, that doesn't happen. And if you think that that's how business is done and capital raising is done, we are not your squad.
Yeah.
You want $1 billion yesterday, also not your squad.
Nothing works that way. That's probably a person that has trouble doing everything. Like immediate satisfaction. I mean, seriously, the same as like marketing. You think it's like, and relationships now. Like, you wanted AUM and you got it. You paid us and it's there. There's a lot of steps in between. There's a lot of business stuff that has to happen for success to occur.
If you want to run a road race, you don't go for a jog and you're like, I can't run a marathon. Well, no, because you just started. So like, just keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other and you'll get there.
I love the attractive repel thing. It's the industries has so much of the, the script and now we're starting to see more people be a little bit more real and authentic and human kind of creep in.
I love it. We have some advisors that we talk to just who are like, I just need help. And, what do I do? And, when you have that conversation with them and you say, well, who do you serve? Like, who's your tribe? What's your niche? And they say, high net worth. You're like, wow, that really narrows it down. Okay. Like specifically yes, retirees. And you're like, okay, so we really need to get more specific.
You would do really well on TikTok.
Again, this is a big step for me. I'm on video right now. TikTok, I'm like breaking out in hives. Don't I have to do something? I mean, not that I'm against that, but like, are we going to be like...
You don't have to. No, you don't have to. It's perfectly fine. This is probably also something where you're going to excel at extremely fast. It's similar that you did when you came into the industry, because you can just hop somewhere and be yourself, and that shows up right away. Anybody who's scripting, trying to be something, worried about presenting, never hits as well. But if you can just be yourself somewhere, you'll shine everywhere. Live,
Sure,
platform, TV, doesn't matter what it is.
Okay, tell me how to do it. I'll try it. And also, I don't know any other way than just to be myself. So that's good news.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably what helped. It's interesting too that you came into the industry with not knowing much information. Obviously, I feel like the lingo and the buzzwords maybe helped you connect with people and speak more language, but that had to be most of the gift, that when you came in so fresh, that in something you were touching on, you came in so fresh that you were just like, I'm just going to try this idea, and then it works.
I 100% agree. I mean, I did not know. I didn't speak Greek. I like math. My dad was a math teacher, so numbers didn't scare me. But to me, what I loved was the stories. So, we had these boutiques. We had a client from Switzerland, and they had this like amazing story. So because it resonated for me, that was what I ended up telling to potential investors, and it resonated for them. But I didn't realize that wasn't how anyone else was doing it. But now, hindsight being 2020, I'm like, oh my gosh, people were probably like, can someone again send her a memo? Like, this is not how we do it. And I was just like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Stacey, we've had you for 45 minutes. So I want to be careful with your time.
Yeah.
One thing we just talked about briefly yesterday, so I'll leave you with this. And anyone watching, guys, get your questions in. We'll get them answered. But you asked me a kind of a rhetorical question on the phone yesterday, and Ryan and I always do a really good job if we have a call with guests beforehand of cutting them off so that we don't spoil the answer, because I want it to be authentic in real time. You said, why don't FAs take a page from the asset management playbook? Yeah. And that question kind of put me, I paused, and I'd love for you to expand on that.
So thanks. Yeah, I often wonder this. So people should comment so you can school me. So if you're a boutique advisor and you have to create your own marketing, right? So I'm guessing if you work for one of the big motherships, they give you all kinds of marketing stuff and you just put your name on it. I don't actually.
Yeah, but we don't like that anyways. So
yeah, so that's bad.
I don't know.
But it's terrible. Okay, good.
It's awful.
That's terrible for me as well. But if I'm sitting there, again, going back to that, your unique ability, you have a business, you're trying to find clients for your business as an advisor, and you're like, what do I do? Where do I start? So they could call you, and I'm a big fan, outsource it. But if you're sitting there and you don't know what to do, you have all these asset managers who, even if they are boutiques, they've got some money and they're really institutional kind of approach to marketing, and they're sending you stuff, right? They've got fact sheets, they've got pitch books, they've got emails they send you. Take what you like, find one you like, sit with it, and say, okay, if I were to rewrite this thing, for me, what would it look like? And just do that. So if it's a fact sheet, what facts could you put on a fact sheet that tell your story with a mix of words and charts and numbers? If it's a pitch book, okay, pitch books are typically pretty bad, but if it was a pitch book, try to take that story brand thing and who's the hero that you're serving, why are you the guide, and tell kind of your why and your how and what the result is. In other words, I'm a big believer in sort of that steal like an artist idea. Take something that you like, regardless of industry. It could be asset managers, that's the closest. Could be you're just somewhere at a hotel and something speaks to you, and take it and sit with it and say, how could I make this for me? And then you're leveraging what somebody has spent a lot of money doing and turning it into a unique piece for you. So it's instead of starting from a blank piece of paper, that's really, really hard. Just collect things that, you're like, gosh, I could do something like that, and then apply it to yourself. Asset managers are really good at that, at figuring out how to create stuff.
Ryan, what did you guys give, and what do advisors give? I mean, because I know the advisor level literature generally is kind of shit. So what did you guys give to clients when they would come in? Did they get presented with anything that sold you guys as a firm, as people?
Yeah. And we had, sorry, it's fuzzy. So if I'm missing some of your question, let me know. But we had a PDF that showed like the what we do and the pricing on it, and just something like that was kind of clear about what we offer and how we help people. If that's what you mean.
It is
just a one pager that lets people know something about us and answers their questions, I guess.
Was it good?
Yeah, was it good?
Well, we made it, so probably not amazing. We tried to just, but I think we were better at, or at least I feel we were better at thinking about the other person. So I really wanted them to have the information they wanted. I think putting the price and fees on there and everything right in front of them was a little bit different, and something people's like, whoa. But then I realized sometimes people care about the price, sometimes they don't, but at least they want to know. But I think we could have done a better job with the language and just showing the value. Absolutely. Answering the questions. I think it was more like, kind of, here's what we do, but we weren't solving problems on the piece of paper. That I'm sure we could have done better.
You could also, I love that. And I think you absolutely, you don't want to hide your price, right? Because that's like, seems weird.
They just want to know,
Yeah, they want to know. And the other thing is, if you went back, again, whatever business you're in, and you went back to the conversations you have with prospects, and you write down, like, this is what we do on our team, Dan will smile. In a meeting, the most important thing that's happening is not what you're saying. It's what the prospect is asking and doing. If they're smiling and nodding, make a note of that. If they're looking like this, like they don't get it, make a note of that. Write down every question they ask. When you get back to your desk, look at that. What vibed, what wasn't clear, and what questions were important to them. And the more times you do that, the more collective information you're able to gather. Then take a PDF, take all the questions, and answer them. Because if one client or prospect has the question, it's probably true that others have it as well. So just hit it on the head. Even if it's an elephant in the room question, address it.
It's the great marketing miss, but it's the great marketing miss, especially in finance, because those at the top are so much smarter than everybody else, and they have to make the decision on what gets put on the documents versus what the audience actually wants to consume.
100%. That's another benefit of being a boutique, is that you're so much closer to what really matters, which is your client.
That's so true, Corey. And the point that you guys just made is that sometimes the person making the decisions doesn't have their fingers on the pulse necessary to make the right one.
Not sometimes, most of the time.
All the time, yeah. I mean, that's where you're really trusting somebody, because they're relaying the information that's most important to almost run the business and make the decisions. You have to rely on what they're telling you.
I don't want to get off track too crazy, but literally the bigs, I've worked there, they bring people in, in marketing and sales who have very little experience, never have been on the road with a salesperson, never have been in front of an advisor, have no idea how the conversations go, to create the literature and the sales documents and all the things to sell to you guys. And it's like, you don't even know this audience.
It's bad news. It's very bad news. But again, that's where, when we always talk about like find your slingshot, for David to beat Goliath, those are the pockets, right? That's the pebble. Pick it up and fire, because they're not going to do it. They have a whole huge marketing department that they pay. So they're not going to like fire those people. So as a boutique advisor, as a boutique asset manager, you can do those things. And guess what? That's what people actually care about. Yep. So let the bigs create like really jazzy charts and that say nothing that no one cares about. And then you do the work that matters.
I love it. We have a question here. It's from Chuck. What are your thoughts on asset managers looking to model marketplaces for distributing their intellectual property?
So I don't even know what that is. What is Orion? What is a community? Can you guys tell me what that is?
Orion, I think, is one of the big.
Is this players. Like? Oh, go ahead.
No, I think I'm trying to think of the other one. There's two of them out there that I don't want to speak out of turn. I'd have to do a little bit of research on this.
Chuck, I so want to help you, but I don't know what you mean. Is it like a UMA where a manager is like just giving somebody their portfolio and then it's being invested?
I don't know. Chuck, get in the comments and if
Yeah,
you're still
we'll
watching.
come back to it.
Sorry.
Yeah, Ryan,
Not
anything
even
else?
3 minds to get it done. No,
I know Orion's
unless
one
there's
of them.
anything you wanted to add, Stacy, something. I think we really hit on the human aspect, especially of, and I think we hammer that a lot as well. Completely believe in it. Is there any?
Oh, we lost him.
Yeah, well, we lost Ryan. Oh, Ryan's a TAMP. All right, so
Am I frozen?
You're back.
Oh, I don't know. Nothing. No.
Thanks, John.
Is there anything you would? Is there anything you would add? Practicality or something specific that you'd say a financial advisor could do to improve their marketing from something you've learned from being hands-on with the boutiques, something that they're doing, something actionable that they could start today that you think would improve their marketing or their message from one reason or another?
Yes, that story brand book. Get the story brand book. It will help you niche down. And like really, high net worth is not a niche. Retirees is not a niche. Pre-retirees is not a niche. A niche is like dentists, doctors, women who are experiencing XYZ. Even women's not enough. Like women who are going through what?
Yep.
Entrepreneurs, C-level executives who have tons of their net worth wrapped up in stock options. Those are like really specific groups who face really specific challenges that somebody can develop a specialty in. If you were to do anything, like don't be afraid of playing smaller to play big.
Let's talk for that for a second. So the second question Ryan and I have with MCO advisors, we bring on, we have a discovery call with our new clients, advisors. And the second question we ask them is, who's your target market? Who's your avatar client? Who do you aim to want to work with?
Right.
And we'll get some people will answer specifically, but most people answer very vague and generically. And the challenge that I think we have, and that you've probably seen, is if people fear that if they go too narrow, they are eliminating the potential for Joe Smith on the street.
Well, right. So this is great because I was just going to say this. So basically, if you do this, which you should, okay, because the riches are in the niches, even though you think they're not. So that's where it takes such an incredible bravery, because here's the other thing. Once you decide, so let's say you go with the like, I specialize in helping C-level executives who have lots of their wealth wrapped up in stock options. If Joe Smith, retiree, calls you and wants to hire you, guess what you have to say? No.
No.
And that's super hard, right? Because then you want to go, okay, so I do the stock option thing and retirees.
Yeah.
You can't. And you will be surprised that your niche is bigger than you think it is. And if you really help people, so if you went through with an advisor, like how big do you want so that whole idea, like 3 years, 5 years, whatever the time frame is, what do you want your practice to look like? AUM, what type of clients, how many clients do you need to get there? It's not going to be 10,000 clients. What's it going to be? I don't know how many clients an advisor typically has.
A couple hundred, I mean, max, right? Yeah.
You don't think you could find a couple hundred
150
C-level executives who have their wealth wrapped up in stock options? I think you can. If you needed 10,000 clients, then maybe we got to figure out a couple different niches, right? But we're not talking about that. So everyone gets afraid of being specific because they think they're not going to get where they want to go. But when you really break it down, it's the only path to get where you want to go because you will mean something to someone.
Yep. Hey, Stacy,
I also think go ahead.
No, please.
I was going to say, because I realized it seems like the average is like 125, 150 relationships. And I think that's usually because you're starting and you're building something like that. I mean, but I've heard people with 2 something, 300. Obviously, if you're hiring people and you have the capacity to do it, but I mean, single people sometimes taking over 250. I think a lot of that comes from not having a niche, not focusing on that area, because if you had what most advisors consider their A clients, you wouldn't have B, C, and D, and you could probably have 50 A, and it'll supply the rest of your life versus the rest that are taking up your attention and your mental capacity and all that stuff. That's not your main focus. I think that's really a big reason of why we trickle into having so many, because 150 households to take care of is a lot. And then if you're at 200, 250, there's undoubtedly, if you don't have help, people you're ignoring.
I love that. What would happen if you just jettison so let's play it out. If I'm going to hire a boutique asset manager, do I want them to have B, C, and D names in their portfolio? No, I want you to have your A names. That's what I'm hiring you for, right? So why are you going to do that to yourself? Why are you going to take, and I know it's scary. Believe me, if you talk to our team, we have managers who want to hire us and they will pay money, good green money. And we have to say no. If they're not a boutique, we have to say no. I don't care that they will pay us. The answer is no. And it is scary. And you're like, even when it was just me, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm saying no. I'm like turning the stuff down. Like, who am I? I'm so exclusive. I don't have any effing clients, but then you realize that that's part of the journey.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Did
we get John's question in when I was floating around in the internet world?
Let's knock this out. So question for all three. The first meeting with individuals for FAs or prospects for asset managers isn't one of the best results of the meeting where no single glossy is handed out.
John, you're good. 100%. We just had a meeting, a great call with one of our boutiques and an early adopter investor. And let me tell you how the meeting flow went. Okay, this will take 2 seconds. The first 20 minutes, the advisor went first, told their backstory of founding their firm. The next 20 minutes, the portfolio manager told his story founding his firm. We never talked about performance. The only other question, we let the advisor ask the last question, which was, tell me the difference between like these two strategies you run. That was the meeting. So it was a phenomenal meeting. The fact sheet isn't to hand out in the meeting, by the way. Like, that's not the point of the meeting. We're sitting together. Why are we looking at documents? Let's talk. The fact is for them to download off your site or to take back so that they can remember your great conversation.
Stacy, who came up with the idea that financial advisors want to spend 15% of any presentation learning about where you went to college?
Or like how many collective years of experience you're taking. Like our experience together. That'll be powerful.
Prior to
1,000 years of experience.
Let's break it down into hours and get some real numbers on this fact sheet.
It's bad news. It's like, again, we're all people. If you were to go meet your friend for coffee, are you guys going to sit and look at a document together? I mean, maybe that could be the point of the meeting, but probably not.
No.
I love how the human piece of what you think about, which it obviously should, not only goes into the marketing, but backs into the processes.
Yeah.
You're realizing at every step of the way that you're dealing with a human being and how people relay. And you realize that if people have a piece of paper in front of them, they're probably reading the paper and half listening, trying to interpret new information they don't know. And maybe it brings up questions, but it does become a very sloppy meeting.
100%.
When we started doing financial planning and just put it up on the TV, it was like no documents, no nothing, just looking at simple things together, focusing on pain points. It became a completely different game.
Hey, Nick, what do you mean? A little more context on handwritten notes.
I love handwritten thank you notes. Let me see. I'm sorry. Let me just grab something. Props.
Help me understand. So, Stacy, when you read this question, what is he saying? Nick, from who to who?
I'm obsessed with handwritten thank you notes. To anyone and everyone. To my mechanic, to someone that I have a great meeting with, to my team. Love. Get boxes of them wherever you find them, because you know who no one sends them anymore.
So do advisors, Ryan, in your experience, is that something that advisors are doing?
Colin was huge on that. That was one of the biggest things, one of the biggest touch points. He was really big on that, something I took from working there. So my experience, yes. Most advisors, 100% no, don't do it. Most people don't do it.
And an email is not the same. And then some people will say, well, I have crappy handwriting. So a lot of people have crappy handwriting. Like, again, it makes you human.
Right. Yeah. Not to say the notes could be read, but we did send them. Same terrible handwriting.
Which one of us is going to start writing the handwritten notes here? Practice what we preach. You gotta,
Yeah. Well, Stacy, I hope you know now Nick Nielsen is like waiting for a hand note and a voicemail. So you have homework right after this show is what he expects.
I'll do that right after, Nick. Coming your way. I need your address, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. But I think that's really big. Do you have a time frame or anything when you send that? Like I would assume impact right after the meeting. Like you write it, you send it right out. But do you care about something like that?
That's like overachiever. If you can do that, I think that's awesome. But I would say no. Whenever, because again, it's just such a nice thing to get in the mail. Even the holidays, one of our asset management friends sent their holiday card with their team picture, which was amazing. But she wrote me a note, and her penmanship was I was like, is this really a person?
Printer?
Yeah.
But what a thoughtful thing. I wouldn't have cared if it arrived today. I would have still thought it was amazing.
Yeah, and Ryan, to that point, I would love it even if the note's like, my life, things have been nutty. Sorry, meant to get to this sooner.
But goes back to being a person. And who doesn't like to get something in the mail? You feel like the most special person on the planet when you see something in the mail that's not a bill or an advertisement.
It's so true. I am excited to open something, if I know it's for me and it's outside the realm of trash. I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, exactly.
There's handwriting on this envelope. This is for me.
Yeah.
Stacey, we've got to get you on again sometime, because I feel like we could
anytime
unpack a million different things with you.
Anytime. I would be happy to.
Maybe we'll surprise you next time. We'll have one of the CEOs of the bigs jump in, and we'll have you two fight back and forth.
That'd be fun.
A live duel. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like a rap battle, but it's like a boutique battle.
A boutique rap battle is exactly what it will be titled next time you come on. There's no way around it.
I love it.
Again, I appreciate you sharing your experience, obviously, and getting into this world is not easy for anybody, let alone, like I said, women 10 years ago, women now. I always appreciate you being in the industry, super male dominated, ego dominated. And I think it drives a lot of the crap that happens. So it's nice to get some empathy into the world, I think. And it really goes a long way and adds to the human being of everything we're doing. So, and also obviously your experience of raising so much money, and, everybody should listen, because obviously it works with the track record you have. So I love it. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. And you know what, being a female in this business works too. And so I think for those of us who, feel like, gosh, I'm a fish out of water. And I definitely felt that especially when I first arrived, turn it around. If you're the only woman in the room or at the table, use that as an advantage. Don't think of it as a disadvantage.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Cool. Appreciate it, Stacey.
Awesome to meet you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll definitely have you on again. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
The Rock
Great show.
Yeah.
Always. I love the unassuming guests. I look usually the night before, so I get more excited when I see the story. I try to do my due diligence beforehand, but
I knew she'd be good. She just has so much fire on and just about what happiness.
And somebody so real just gives you better answers and has better conversations. It just makes for a better show. For me, it was annoying because it was choppy the whole time and going out, and obviously the internet aspect. But I love having her on. Definitely going to have her on again. I think there's a lot of guests that we're getting ready to circle back on. We've already had Ruffalo on twice, obviously, but some of our favorites of just speaking about how it's been over the last 6 months or a year. Maybe that's something we'll do eventually. So appreciate you guys being here. Corey, why don't you send somebody off into the weekend with a nice marketing tip that they can take, since you're such a good, I feel like, weekend content guy?
The same thing I say every Friday, guys. Your consumers, your prospects will be paying attention tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday.
It's important. I think we've been big on the Sunday night post. You've hit that nail on the head a few times, and we had somebody else say the same thing. And while we may not be used to timing or gaming the algorithm, I am used to timing or gaming people. And I think a lot of people are just on their phones at that time. So you get more reactions, and it does do something with the algorithm. But really, just like Stacy was saying, we're always thinking about people and human beings. So it's like, when are people looking at their phones? Advisors usually sometime in the morning, right when they get in the office. Otherwise, you're doing kid stuff, same. So think about it that way, and have a great weekend, everybody.
Yep, for sure.
See ya. I got to call Verizon immediately.
Yeah, you got to get on that.
I'm going to do right. I'm calling them right now.
If we go back in the shows, you've been talking about that since October.
We were super busy